Together around 25. 25? How are we at 25? That's crazy. It's exciting though, isn't it? It's been a great adventure, and I've loved seeing feedback, seeing people enjoying it, seeing your photos. Let's take a photo now this time. Let's start with a picture. So take a picture of you about to begin your Together run. If you like, grab your piece of nature or touch it. I am picking up a little branch of trees that have fallen off that tell me fall is here. So take your picture and we'll go in just a minute. Make sure you touch something of nature or step onto the ground if you're on a treadmill to ground yourself for just a minute. And are we ready to begin? In 3, 2, and 1. Off we go. Still on this recovery journey, so hoping my foot is okay. Going about each run without the expectation of it's going to go amazing, just in case it does hurt and I have to retreat. But I did 8.5 miles yesterday, so hopefully we're okay. Alright, so welcome to Together Run 25. If this is your first Together run, thank you. Excited you're here. Would love to know how you found it. Was it a friend sharing it? Was it you stumbling upon it? I've seen quite a few people say Spotify lately. So what was it? How'd you find it? And yeah, if it was someone else that recommended it, I mean, that really, which seems to be the case a lot of the time, that really shows the power in that, and it's pretty cool. So how this works is I'm running, you're running, we're kind of as close as we are to running together, and yeah, without running together, and I'm going to pretend that you're here with me. I'm going to talk to you as if I can hear you, and I'm gonna just make it into a run together. That's where the name comes. Used to call them guided runs at the beginning. That's what I called them, because it's kind of a bit like a meditation as well. But Together Run just seemed to fit so much better, and it matches what it does, you know, just with us feeling connected and with one another. So with that, we always start the same way, which is with a body scan. I will tell you when to start, but you're going to work from the top of your head all the way down to your toes, through just paying attention, being aware of what each thing feels like, and trying, as hard as it is, not to judge of this feels good, this feels bad, but instead just feeling the sensation of that area and just noticing. We'll check in at a few other points throughout the run, potentially. And so you can see how you're feeling, if things loosen up, if things feel different, and the run as we go. So that said, let's begin. I'll give you some prompts along the way, starting at the top of your head, working through your eyes, into the back of your head, and I guess the main, I still need to figure out what that's called. Can someone tell me what's the rounded part of your skull? Anyway, through your ears, through your nose, your mouth, so your jaw is not clenched, going back into your front of your neck, round to the back of your neck, into your shoulders. And imagine this as like a warm light that's moving its way through, or a cold light if you're feeling warm. A cool light. And working into your upper arms, your lower arms, into your hands and fingers, and back into your torso, going through your collarbone, into your chest, into your stomach, and your pelvis and hips, working its way through there, going into the top of the glute, into the top of the hamstring, into the quad, knees, going down into the calf, shin, working into your ankle, ankle, into your arch of your foot, top of your arch, toe pad, that's not the term, but you know what I mean, into your toes, and finish. How's everything feel? Anything jump out to you as surprising? Anything feel maybe better than you expected it to? Shouldn't have expectations, I suppose, but I do. Right now, coming back from injury as much as I try. Just the way it is. So how are you feeling? So we want to check in with our bodies physically as we start a run. Just gets us in a good place where we can, just be in touch with our bodies. So often we go into these runs, or into our runs, and we're almost like traveling 100 miles an hour from a job or just from things we need to do. And we don't bother checking in with our body. We just kind of say, and go. And off we go, and we're distracted and not paying attention to it. And that's all our body really wants. It's just for us to listen. We've really lost a lot of our ability to listen. And I hope this is a way of bringing that connection back. And I know many of you take this into your other runs, the body scan, which I love. So keep that up. Okay. Next, I'm going to ask you, how are you? If I were to ask you that and you were going to give me a long and detailed answer, what would you say? Not just a yeah, great. Thank you for taking the time to answer that. And if I were to answer the same question to you, you would say, what about you? I would say, I'd say I'm feeling grateful. So far, my foot's been allowing me to run a decent amount, and in the grand scheme of injuries, tendon ones are, while annoying, at least I can still run. Whereas, because I said last week, Kyle, who, as you listen to this, was supposed to be running Boston, we were supposed to be doing it together, him having a stress fracture. That's a cut, it's a cut it dry, isn't it? You're out. There's no around that. So I guess I'm feeling very grateful. I'm feeling, let's put ourselves in the Boston Marathon mindset today. I'm feeling grateful I've had the opportunity to run Boston in the past. It was a really cool experience, so maybe I'll talk a bit about that soon. And I'm also feeling grateful my mother-in-law is here, and It's meant that when you listen to this, I will be in a cabin in the woods in Missouri getting ready to leave, but I would have had a weekend to work on my book and to work on other work stuff, which I don't often get that time, and that's going to help me to feel not so behind all the time. So yeah, mostly gratitude this morning. Okay, so the next thing we will do is work our way through our senses. Well, 5 of our, as I learned recently, probably around 20 senses. I'm going to do the main 5, and we'll start that with 2 as deep as you can breaths. So let's just go ahead and do that. Before I begin, actually, with Chloe recently, I've noticed, well, both my girls actually, that if one of them hurts themselves and they're crying, if while they're snuggling into me, I do deep breaths, just do like what they call box breathing, in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, wait for, they calm their breathing a lot quicker. And I wonder how much of that is like the human nature part of us wants to calm ourselves, and a lot of it is that kind of shock psychological side of things, but it's almost like no match for the deep breathing. And so for them, they don't realize that I'm calming their breathing down, but I am. It's just interesting. I wonder why that is. But I definitely noticed, someone put a chair on the side of the street. It is trash day again as I'm recording this. This is the day I usually just get so irritated with people. As I said last week, please just don't throw random stuff onto the side of the street for trash pickup. Like, look if there's a Buy Nothing group. Look if there's some way of donating it. There's a lot of people out there who would love to have other items. And if you were going to get rid of it, then maybe take that extra step. So apologies if that's going to keep coming up for me again, but I really struggle with trash day. I just find myself getting locked in with seeing or like noticing perfectly good things that are being thrown out. Okay, that said, keep that gratitude, right, Tina? I just told you how I am feeling gratitude today, so I've got to keep that approach. All right, what do you smell? Let's start there. Take a nice inhale. What is it you smell? Me, I smell wet grass. What do you taste? Me, I taste athletic greens. I love it. And I drank it before I left. Next, we're going to do what do you hear? Now with this, I want you to take out headphones that you have and take out your headphones, and you're just going to listen to the sounds of where you are for a little while, 30 seconds or so, and then you can come back and we'll talk a little more. So just take your headphones out, and what do you hear? Okay, and now let's do something a bit different. Keeping your headphones in. See if you can pick out some noises in my background that maybe you wouldn't have noticed had I not asked you to hone in on the hearing. What do you hear? Anything? Probably my breathing, right? Or my footsteps. It's actually pretty quiet today, in general. No owls this morning, which I learned the other day. A group of owls are called a parliament, which is pretty funny. So if you do these together runs regularly, and this is your first one, you will definitely learn to hear a lot more about owls. My 3-year-old's obsessed with owls, and I mean obsessed with owls. Her birthday cake has been an owl the last 2 years, so her second and third birthday, and I would say I'm 90% certain it's going to be an owl again the fourth birthday. We will see, but we're still very owl obsessed. Okay, let's go on to touch, feel. I want you to just take a little bit of time and notice what sensations you feel through touch. You can jump from one point to the next, because that's kind of how our mind works. It's constantly scanning. Or you can really allow one to come into focus and feel it for a little while, really know what it feels like before you move on. Right, off we go. Okay. What jumped out to you? Is it things that usually jump out to you first? I mention often that usually the one I notice is sweat on my face. But it's going to be cooling down soon, so maybe it won't be that one. But today, actually, what I noticed was my hand holding the phone must be gripping a little tighter than usual. It's definitely feel like it's making an imprint on my phone, on my hand. You'd hope it wasn't making an imprint on my phone, wouldn't you? Because then it'd be melting. And nobody wants a melting iPhone. Which, we've all had that experience, or if you have an iPhone, or any phone, of when it's out in the sun and it's like, nope, this is too warm. I'm going to shut down for a while. Kind of glad it does that though, right? Because otherwise we would literally melt our, what's it called? Chips? I don't know what the word is. And we'd be in trouble. And out of a lot of money. Okay. And finally, sense of sight. Again, this week, I'm going to give you a lot more freedom and flexibility. If this is your first time doing this, make sure you look to the right, up and down, to the left, up and down, at the diagonals of your vision, and pick a point, at some point straight ahead, where you can hone in on it and pay attention to what you see, and then use that long-sighted vision. I suppose I should say, if you have it, I know a lot of people who wear glasses and contacts don't wear their glasses and contacts to run. So I suppose I should say that if you have it, you have the ability to do that, do that. All right, off you go. Try to notice something you've never paid attention to before, even if you've run these roads thousands of times, even if you've done all 25 of these together runs. Try and pick something different. Okay, thank you for joining me in that. Body, mind, and surroundings check-in. Just feels good to do that, doesn't it? It's really something we should be doing every run. Have to admit I don't, but I recognise I should. I'm really glad many of you have been doing this as well. That said, I did mention in my email newsletter that I haven't run with music or podcasts for well over a month, probably 6 weeks, thanks to Mishka Shubali talking about it, how it was going to help me, and I'm still doing it. And so I like that maybe I'm not doing the body scans, but I'm definitely aware of my body and paying attention and allowing the thoughts to flow freely. All right. So the next thing I think I would ask you is to give me an update. If you've been doing this every week, you know that you'll probably be able to tell me what's happened in the last week for you. If you are joining for the first time, maybe you could just say a little more about yourself. What would you tell me if we were running together and I said, what's your story? Tell me about you. But if you've been doing this for a while, you can add a new story today. Tell me a story you've been wanting to share or thinking about or came to mind recently, or just tell me an update of what you've been up to. What would you tell me? Just another few more seconds. It's the only downside to this is that I can't genuinely respond. There's nothing I could say that would sound genuine, and it might not be the right thing to say back. Okay, what would I tell you? Well, I would give you an update and tell you that I'm excited to go off this weekend with Maria, who was on the Running for Real team, to go do some work, to be in nature, to have some quiet, and I'm a little bit apprehensive. You know, I'm going to a small town in Missouri I've never been to. Don't really know what to expect there. I would tell you that I'm going to see my chiropractor again today, and dry needling my perennial responds really well to. So I'm feeling hopeful that having a second treatment this week will help to push it over the edge to get better. I'm hoping I can do some kind of a long run tomorrow, maybe not, 3 hours, but something like, 2 to 2.5, I hope. I really have to pay attention to my form during this time in terms of landing on my heel, as I normally do. But there's a temptation when you have pain near your heel to try and land on your toes to avoid it. But that makes it worse. So, and I would say, what else would I say? I'd say that speaking of book writing, I spent 3 hours in a coffee shop yesterday, and it was so good to have that time that I used wisely, and I'm proud of myself for keeping it, as I've been pretty bad at squeezing other things into that book writing time. So yeah, that's probably what I would say. Right, so we are at 26 minutes. So if you are in the 30-minute group, got a few more minutes. We will do 2 strides at the end of this run. At the end of the 30 minutes, I'll give you a minute to walk, get your breath back, and then we're going to do 2 strides, which will involve picking up the pace, running at about 80% of your max, and just for 10 to 15 seconds, you have a break in between, and we'll do it again. So that's what we're going to do at the 30, 45, and then near the 60-minute mark. Okay, so in the meantime, let me think about this for a minute. Let's do an activity that I normally do with my daughter in the evening at dinner time, and I talked about it earlier. Why don't we do a few things we're grateful for? I know that's cheesy, but you're used to me being cheesy. So let's really think about it for a minute or two. Try not to jump to the obvious things of my family, my friends, and that I am alive. Although if you really think, and those are the things that come to mind, that's amazing. I just want you to feel them. Really feel in your heart. Whatever you pick should be lighting you up. You should smile even thinking about it. So, yeah, let's go ahead. Just take a minute to really think. What would you tell me if you were to tell me 3 things right now you really appreciate and are grateful for? Few more seconds of thinking. Should take you a while if you're really taking the time to feel and experience each one. Okay. Thank you for sharing. If you want to put that into your social media post, I'd love to see it. And on that note, is that a segment we should add for future ones? If I can remember, of course. Need to start writing on my hand what things to make sure I include. Would you like that to be a regular addition to our together runs? I mean, I know it can be a bit uncomfortable and feel a bit sappy, but I really, really think it helps all of us to just stop for a minute and notice how lucky we are. It's very easy to get into, as I said earlier, that go mindset. Oop. Okay, if you're in a 30-minute group, come do a walk. That dog reminded me. It's really easy in our go mindset to kind of get wrapped up in the things we need to do or the things that are going wrong for us. But this can ground us and remind us that we are fortunate to have those things, that not everyone has those things, and we should appreciate them. Okay, if you're in a 30-minute group and you're walking, I'll give you just a few more seconds to recover, and then we're going to do 2 strides of about 15 seconds each. They are going to be about 80% of your max, but you're not trying to stride out. One of the together runs, I'll put a link in the show notes, one of the together runs has an explanation of what overstriding is. So I'd recommend going back to that one next, and then I'll explain why. If you don't want to be striding out, you want to actually be increasing your cadence, running more steps. Okay, we're ready to begin. I'm actually not going to do it again because of my peroneal, so I just want to be careful, okay? In 3, 2, and 1, off you go. And slow to a walk or a jog. If you're in the 45 or the 60-minute group, you should still be running this entire time. Okay, we'll take a few more seconds. We'll do one more. And I want to say, we still have that survey up I mentioned last week. If you haven't already filled that out, that can be what you can do to help me this week, is go fill that out. There's a link in the show notes. That would be really helpful for us at Running for Real to understand what kind of runner you are in terms of your level of competitiveness and what you want out of running, what Running for Real gives you, what you wish to see less of. It's the first, 6 questions, a multiple choice. If you just want to do those ones, if you're fed up of surveys, totally get it. And just do those ones. You don't have to do the long form ones if you don't want to. Those are totally up to you, but I would really appreciate it. And if you want to support me on Patreon, you can support Running for Real there. And there's a link in the show notes. And sharing this on your social media to get other people joining is also fantastic. All right, ready for another stride? 3, 2, and 1. Off you go. Okay, and slow to a jog. All right, 30-minute crew. Thank you for joining me. Go check out those links I just mentioned. Really appreciate you doing that. And I'll see you next Monday. If you want to hang around, you're welcome to. Probably going to talk about Boston for a little bit. My Boston experience. And then I think maybe because of me going to a cabin in the woods, I'm probably going to talk about trips like that and self-care with like solo or quiet adventures. if you want to hang around. Okay. All right, 45-minute group. We have about 11 minutes left before you come to your walk and do a few more strides. The reason I break these strides up is so we all get to experience them. Well, usually I get to experience them. But then also, because 6 strides feels intimidating sometimes and can prevent us from doing it because it feels like too much effort. But breaking it down, and if you're running 45 minutes, 4 is about right. 30 minutes, 2 is good. So it works well with the distances. As I said, I'm not doing them right now. Just want to be really careful. And so I'll be back to doing them soon. Okay, so as you are listening to this, or as this comes out, it is Marathon Monday. Although I think a lot of you don't listen to it on Mondays. So I'm not going to hone too much in on what we should be doing for it. But yes, it will be Marathon Monday around Boston in 2019, which is not the famous year of when the worst of the worst weather was around. Although I mentioned before, a big part of me wishes I could have done that race, or had that race happen to land when I was in my peak fitness. I think I would have done very, very well. That would have suited me well to have really, really crappy conditions, to be going into it, expecting to be way far down and passing people. I often wonder about that because I've had multiple elite friends say to me, you would have been right up the top had you been in that race. So yeah, but that said, I did 2019. A few funny things from that. One, I overdid it totally with events that weekend. I had so many live meetups and live shows and running around and trying to get my hair curled at this dry bar. Oh, and I'll tell you about that in a minute, which was so stressful. I had my mum with me, so I was concerned about whether she was okay. And I got to the race, and by mile 6, I was already feeling tired. By mile 11, I was already dying. I remember going past the UCAN group of people and them looking at me at mile 11 and being like, you got this, you look great, and being like, I am so dead already. And I didn't come back. The energy didn't come back. It wasn't a phase. I struggled and kept struggling and kept pushing through the struggle. And those final few miles, I was just hanging on for dear life. The sad thing is, I wasn't really able to enjoy a lot of that race at all, really, the Boston Marathon experience, because I was so tired. And I don't know why, but I do know why, it's part of my personality. I couldn't take my foot off the pedal to say, you know what, it didn't matter to me at the time. I wasn't training to be a PR, but I was so, and I hope I'm still not that way, I guess we'll find out, so obsessed with doing my best that I couldn't stop trying really hard. And I just ended up so out of it by the end that I couldn't even, I'd see people I knew cheering my name and I couldn't even register them. Just had to survive, which is sad because Boston's a pretty cool race. But it was also 70 degrees and I was wearing capris because I wanted to make sure I could use my UCAN, and I'd forgotten my shorts, and I preferred having my UCAN and being hot over not having UCAN. Shows you how much I trust it. That said, in that race, because I was dying so much, I ended up the final few miles just telling myself to get to the Gatorade. So each mile I would just down some Gatorade and just tell myself to get to the next Gatorade. I just was using that as my hook to get to the next mile, that it would give me a hit of sugar, which is the opposite of what I usually want, because usually I have that steady energy from UCAN and I'm not exhausted going in. So I learned my lesson there. Definitely learned my lesson. And my hair. Oh, so now you likely know, if you've seen me, I've in the past had people be like, oh, I just came across your picture after years of listening to you and I didn't think you looked like that. Don't know what that means. Don't know what people have in mind for what I look like. But as you probably know, I have curly hair and pretty voluminous curly hair. And but at that time, I still wasn't confident enough in myself and my hair. It's just kind of crazy. I've come a long way in 2 years to leave it curly. So for some of these live events, I wanted it curled. So I went to a dry bar and the woman was just like very interesting morning. She was telling me all these really strange stories, way too personal. Even her like sexual partners kind of stories. And I didn't ask for any of this, but I actually just wanted to kind of sit down for a minute and text people I hadn't replied to. And if you know me, you know I'm not very good at replying to texts. I was texting people to set some things up. Again, I was in this mode of like efficiency, and I was trying to get as much in as I could that weekend. And so she kept talking to me and I kept having to put my phone down, so I was getting annoyed. And she was telling me she was going to quit her job and move to San Francisco. And anyway, while she was doing this, she wasn't really paying attention to my hair. And so I came out of it and it was just a frizzball. And if you have curly hair yourself, or you know someone who has curly hair, you will know that frizz is our ultimate paranoia, one of our biggest stresses, and it's the last thing you want. So for me, when I came out of that, I had like a halo of frizz around my head coming out of the salon. And so I was really upset, really annoyed. Took it out on my poor mum, who was, just doing whatever I wanted. And cried, got some of my energy out, anxiety out. And then, it was just so stressful when really, and even further than that, one event after that, I considered driving an hour to go to a dry bar to do my hair. An hour there, an hour back before this event, before I finally snapped, before my keynote speech in California, in Berkeley, where I said, you know what, I'm done with this. I'm letting my hair be itself. How can I say I'm real and I'm genuine and I'm comfortable with who I am, and you are too. You should be too, if I can't let my hair be natural. So that was the decision I made and haven't gone back. No tongs or anything have touched my hair since. But yeah, those are some of my Boston memories. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of the good ones of the race, as I mentioned, but the meetup I did was one of my favourite moments of my running career. And if you came to that event, I did this meetup at Tracksmith before I even knew what Tracksmith was. I knew it was clothing, but like I didn't have any association with them. Did this meeting just because a friend told me they had a space. About 50 people came, were lined up waiting to chat. It was amazing. Honestly, it was such a rush, and everyone I met that day I loved. But they were so impressed with the fact that many people showed up to chat to me, that's what prompted them to reach out to me about a sponsorship. So thank you to anyone who came there, because you got me that. All right, if you're a 45-minute group, come to a walk and we'll do 2 strides in a minute. I'm starting to run on my toe again. Stop it, Tina. So yeah, I should note, with Tracksmith, they are switching off my code any day now. So it might even be already switched off by the time you hear this. But if you've been holding off on getting that $15 off 75, better go do it today, because they're going to switch off the code and turn it into a giving code where a percentage, I can't remember, I should look it up, the percentage of your sales, 15% I think of your purchase will go to Runners for Public Lands. So yeah, kind of proud to be doing that. And I talked to them about it probably a year and a half ago, that I wanted to switch my code to a giving code. And now we're doing it. So yeah, all right, let's do a stride. 45-minute crew in 3, 2, and 1. And slow to a walk. Okay, give you a few seconds. You don't need as long as the 30-minute group, and then we'll do another one. It's a lot harder for me to judge without doing it myself, so I apologize if these are like 7 seconds and then 27 seconds the next one. I'm looking at my watch, but it's hard to not get distracted. Okay, ready to do another one in 3, 2, and 1. Here we go. And slow to a walk or a jog. Please go fill out that survey if you haven't already. You can support me on Patreon. You can go take a screenshot of your run. If you didn't take one at the beginning, take one now of your face, or screenshot, share it. All helps me. Thank you so much, friends. I will see you Friday for a regular episode, and next Monday for Together. And speaking of the episode coming Friday, actually, it's a really special one with Kaylee Williamson and Sandy Williamson. Kaylee is this incredible woman who is breaking all kinds of records and rules, or not rules, but achievements in terms of she was the first woman with Down syndrome to ever run Austin Half Marathon, and she just is determined to run a marathon or a half marathon in every state. She's training for her first marathon. Her and her mum are on the show. Really amazing duo, and just the best. So be sure to listen to that episode with Kaylee this coming Friday. All right, thank you, friends. I'll see you next week. All right, as always, we have 11 minutes left, and I think, yeah. All right, let's do a check-in. So why don't we do a body scan today? I'm going to let you do it on your own. You can start from the top of your head and work your way down at your own pace. Off you go. Okay, how's everything feeling now? Any different? Feeling good in your body, or feeling like there's some maybe areas that you're not treating as well as you should? What can you do to change that? All right. I had something that came to mind I was going to share. Oh, so Ryan Holiday and Malcolm Gladwell both said they both run in the afternoon. As you know, I'm a morning runner, and probably I'd say more of you are morning runners, but there's also quite a lot of evening runners and afternoon runners. So Ryan said he does have ideas come to him. Mishka also said ideas come to him. But Malcolm said he doesn't have ideas come to him. So I'd love... What about you? Do things come to you? Ideas when you don't have things to listen to? Do you get ideas? What tends to come to your mind when your mind is given that freedom? I'm not talking about the beginning of the run where we're processing our day or setting up our day or working through a problem like in the family or whatever. But what about at the end, the final few minutes? I'd love to know, but even just if you think about it, what comes to mind for you? Literally, what is it? Do you have anything, or are you like Malcolm and maybe you don't? I really find that fascinating, particularly in the case of Malcolm Gladwell. Like, you would think with a mind like his, one of the greatest observers of our time, he would have lots of thoughts in a run, but he said he doesn't. So really interesting to think about. So I want to leave that to you for just a minute. Think about yourself. What would you say if I asked you that right now? Okay, thank you for sharing. If you remember, share after run, after you finish, and in your post. I'd love to see it. Okay, but the other thing I was going to talk about is, so I mentioned going to a cabin in the woods, or near the woods, and I've never done anything like this before. I did that few days in Boulder with Zoe, but that was we were basically on Colorado University's campus. So it wasn't, where we were staying wasn't exactly, remote. That said, Boulder is a pretty cool place to be, as we know. And it was a quiet weekend. I didn't see a lot of the friends I could have, didn't tell them I was there intentionally. But doing something like this, not taking a plane intentionally and taking my hybrid car to the woods to have a mix of work, and being out in nature and just quiet. But for me, selecting that over the hustle and bustle and the busyness of the Boston Marathon was a big step and showed me maybe I'm mellowing out a bit. Maybe I'm kind of, I guess, coming maybe into more of who I am. Maybe it is just that I've seen others who are writing books do this and have a lot of success and I want to copy them. I'm not sure. But I want to ask you this. Do you ever take some time to spend some time, like quiet time with yourself, with your thoughts? And I mention this because even though Maria is coming, if you've heard me talk about Maria before, she's very introspective, she's very thoughtful, she is a deep thinker, she likes to have quiet, reflective time. And that's partly why I spoke to her about this rather than just asking anyone else. Because I know she will want to get work done and she will want to have that quiet time as well. And so she'll be the ideal person for me to spend that time with because she doesn't mind silence. And so, but I ask you that. Do you ever do anything like that? Hopefully some of your runs are that way. This maybe gives you a little bit of that. But I think often, like I usually would, when we get time to go do something or go somewhere or travel, I in the past have always fallen to the habit of gotta go somewhere. Again, efficiency, that's a reoccurring theme with me that I'm trying to work on, of like, what can I get the max out of? What's somewhere I've never been that I can go check off on my list? Or what is something that I can go do that will change this or grow this? But taking a weekend of kind of self-care, recharging, is pretty exciting actually. I feel excited about it, but I also think it's good for us as humans, especially if you are a parent. Like, taking a few days to yourself shouldn't be something that is considered waste, I suppose. That said, I do recognise there's obviously the privilege aspect of, I'm in a situation where I can go and leave my husband to look after the kids with his mum, and she can come here when we need her. But that said, we don't have family that lives near us, so this isn't something I can do often. I'm just choosing to use my time that I would have been going to Boston on a quiet retreat instead. Just something to think about. Okay, friends, time for 2 more strides for you. You ready? In 3, 2, and 1. Off you go. And come to a jog. Do 1 more in just a minute. I am actually a little bit further out than I'm not going to make it back. So I think I'll still cut it off at 60. Make it nice and even. But I might be talking for a minute while I'm running. Okay. Ready for another one? In 3, 2, and 1. Off you go. And come to a jog. Got about a minute to go. I've probably got maybe 3 minutes to go. So I'm going to keep talking, but you can obviously come to a walk when you hit the 60-minute mark. But if you could go fill out that survey, if you could share this, that'd be much appreciated. And I'll try and remember to put links for things. But as I noticed last week when Sally said to me, "Oh, you called me out in the run," and I couldn't even remember it because it is literally like running with a friend when I run with you, so I can't remember what I said and what I didn't say. Okay, all right, whenever you're ready, whenever your 60 minutes is up, come to a walk. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for your support. Thank you for filling out the survey. And speaking of gratitude, one thing I'm so grateful for is our community. Our community is the best. And just you. I love hearing from you. I love seeing your photos. And I'm just appreciative of you. Thank you, friends. I will see you next week.
Before we end this episode, I just want to take a moment to shout out my podcast editor, Jeremy Nessel, who has done such a wonderful job of looking after my podcast, taking out all the mishaps in the episodes, while still keeping in the vulnerability and the realness and the rawness of the conversation. This is not one of those podcasts where I take out the ums and the ers and the sometimes the delay in words, because I think it's very important to keep that authenticity. We're surrounded by perfected and manicured everything, and I think it's really important that Running for Real stays that way. So thank you to Jeremy for your work. I also want to thank Maria Vargas and Amber Moore, who are also part of my team. They've been a big part of this community and me being able to build this brand. So just want to give them a shout out too. All right, let's get right back to the end of this episode.